The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good morning. This is Kathleen Taylor with the Nevada Women's Business Center. I am really pleased to present to you a webinar for the restaurant entrepreneur. And as an overview, this is what we're going to discuss today. I have a fantastic guest speaker with me, and we are collaborating with SCORE for this webinar. So I'd like to welcome Bill Pappas.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Bill. So basically, Bill is going to provide us based upon his experience, extensive experience in the whole restaurant dynamic, in the front of the house, the back of the house, everything else in between, the dynamics of employees, the dynamics of the business owner. So I'm really looking forward to having you share that with our audience.
I'm happy to.
And so we'll go into the presentation, and then after the presentation, if you could use your questions control on your control panel, and at any time if you want to type in some questions to ask Bill or myself, we'd be more than happy to answer your questions. After the webinar, you're going to receive a survey. We'd really appreciate your feedback on this particular segment. So with that being said, I'd like, Bill, could you share with the audience your background?
Yes, I'm born and raised in the restaurant business, actually. I've been at it in my family's restaurant when I was young. Then I put myself through college working in restaurants, and then I became I worked all the various jobs within the restaurant. I was a waiter, a bartender, a busboy, a cook. And through my education and then also through my experience, I worked my way up to be director of operations of a small chain. We had 6 restaurants in California.
Okay.
Very successful, lines at the door to get in. We turned into nightclubs at night.
Excellent.
So, and we were infamous. And I was on the board of several restaurant associations in California. And then when I came here to Las Vegas, in 1991, I became a crisis management consultant for restaurants.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I went around fixing broken restaurants and helping people retheme, helping them. I became licensed and I did site location work for many restaurants. Your audience would probably know big names. And I started to concentrate more on the development of restaurants.
Okay.
So I shifted my focus from the real estate to full-time development, training, and then when I became a SCORE mentor, I started teaching workshops about the restaurant industry, and mostly the underlying theme of my workshops are the skill sets that you need and the mindsets that you need to become a success in this business. So hopefully that's what we're going to discuss this morning here.
Oh, definitely. And you have such a vast experience in all these different aspects of the restaurant sector. So we would really appreciate any type of pearls of wisdom that you can share with us. So with that, we're going to see if we could possibly get any inputs from the audience, just to kind of see where everyone is. Excuse me, pardon me. Just to see where everyone is for the for where you're at, and basically we just want to ask you, what stage of business are you at in your development? So let me just share this poll with you. So just pardon me for a moment. So this poll is just basically asking, are you thinking about opening a restaurant, or are you, creating the infrastructure, the licensing, the permits for it? Did you just open it? Are you um, 2 year, less than 2 years within business, or maybe 3 years or more established in business?
Mhm.
So we're just basically sharing that with the audience. There may be some participation. If not, that's okay. I just wanted to share with the audience, whether you are live with us, that this is something that we wanted to discuss, or if you're actually looking at this later on at your own convenience, then this is something that we were discussing. So I'll go ahead and I'll close the poll now. And going back to our discussion here with Bill, where we are looking at stage of business. So, given your experience, what is the process from thinking about going into the restaurant industry to getting the infrastructure together, to getting the launch going, and then actually being in business? Could you kind of take us through those steps?
Certainly. The restaurant business historically has a very high failure rate.
Yes.
Failure rate, depending on who you ask, is low 90s, 90%.
Wow.
Within the first 5 years. And what I like to profess when I'm speaking to my clients, either here at SCORE or in my private consulting business, the thing is that if you're going to be in the 5 to 10% that does succeed,
Right.
there are a litany of skill sets that you have to master,
Mm-hmm.
and mindsets that you have to master. In the beginning, some people get in the restaurant, oh, you're a great cook, so you should have your own restaurant. Or you're a terrific chef, why don't you have your own restaurant?
Right.
Or I've always wanted to do it. Some people want to be in the bar business, some people want to be in the restaurant business for whatever self-actualization you want for yourself. But there are really just a few things that need to be paramount. One is you have to be able to live the life of a restaurateur, which is not the same as having a dress shop
Yes.
or a hardware store. You're not closed on weekends. You're open every night. You're not going to your mom's house for Easter because it's the busiest restaurant day of the year.
Wow.
You're not going to your wife's sister's wedding shower because you're busy. It's Friday night.
Right.
So there are a lot of personal conflicts that go on between yourself and your significant other that you need to address up front. Usually, it's a very gross misstatement, but I say, marry within the industry so that your spouse knows what the life is like, and you're not in competition with perhaps their life. You're going to work at night, they're coming home, you're not seeing each other. Who's going to take care of the kids? There's all these personal issues that weigh heavily, and it's hard.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, you're on 24/7, not just with the service dynamic and getting orders and getting the order to the table for the customer, but everything that goes behind that, with making sure that your inventory is fresh, making sure that things are up to code. If a refrigerator breaks down, or a burner on the stove or the grill.
Welcome to my world.
Exactly, and it's constant. And then you have the whole employee management dynamic behind that as well. So it's you said the phrase self-realization, and I'm familiar with that. Could you elaborate on what that entails and related to someone wanting to go into the restaurant industry?
Well, there's a school of thought in motivational theory.
Yes.
And the first thing that you need to satisfy is shelter, food. You know, you got to pay your rent, and that's one level. And as you climb up in your career path, whatever it is, you finally arrive at self-actualization, which is supposedly the top of the pyramid.
Is that related to Maslow's
But it
hierarchy
is.
of needs?
That's where I've taken that,
Okay.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the, you know, what he says, to be succinct, is that if you're doing what you love and you're getting great personal satisfaction from what you're doing, whether it's, and this excludes the financial side of things.
Sure.
It's not, you know, because many people are very happy what they do and they don't necessarily, they're not rich.
Right.
And so you don't need to be rich to feel self-actualized, but you need to succeed at what you want to do.
Sure.
And succeeding in the restaurant business is a full-time job.
Yes, it is.
And so that's why I say your mindset has to be there, because you're going to get beat up occasionally. You know, like you said, things break, this happens. You made plans, you're going on vacation, and all of a sudden you can't do what you want to do.
Right.
And so you have all these stresses, and a great stress is the management of not just of your plant and equipment, but of your personnel.
Yes.
And you know, I think we'll talk a little bit about that further on in the discussion. But I don't try to discourage people from going into the business.
Okay.
What I try to do is enlighten people who want to go into business, and I say, if you're going to do this, you should know these things.
Right, exactly. You should be prepared.
You should be prepared.
Yes.
And so your question to me was, what do I do when we're first qualifying each other?
Sure.
And you know, oftentimes I'll find people, I'll ask them their financial capacity, and it's rare that they have the real financial capacity that they need unless they're independently wealthy. And I've had clients like that. And, you know, when they did what they wanted to do because they could afford to do it. But then I had to teach them what it's like to succeed.
Exactly.
And,
right.
You know, just having financial capacity doesn't mean that you're going to be a success in this business.
Exactly.
Because this is a business of very small margins.
Yes.
And small restaurants, this is an axiom now. Small restaurants make small money. Big restaurants make big money.
And that's basically how it is.
Yeah, and so it all depends on where you can afford to buy into the game.
Very good. Good points. I agree.
And so I challenge people right away. How much money do you want to make? Let's talk about the money.
Sure.
First off, okay. How much money do you want to make a year? And then when I get that answer, I look at the scope of what they're trying to do, and I might say, you know, you're never going to make this kind of money with what you can afford to do.
Yes. Yes.
So
that's a good assessment, actually, and it's very realistic.
Yeah, you have to be real. I mean, I'm a very pragmatic about that, and what I try to do is bring the conversation down to what are your needs, what are you trying to achieve, what can you afford to achieve, and do they marry up?
Absolutely. Now, speaking of, you know, dynamics, in reference to self-realization, so to speak, one of your points is, you know, being an egotist and a masochist in the restaurant industry. That's, you know, and that's something that you bring up actually in classrooms and workshops that you provide about restaurant management and restaurant dynamics. Could you elaborate on what you mean by that?
Certainly. It's a good attention grabber. It's actually the first screen on my PowerPoint projection is welcome egotists and masochists. Well, you need a good dose of both. You need the ego to think that you can do it better than what's already out there. You need the ego to think that you can surmount all the obstacles that are going to be put in your way.
Yes.
And you have to really believe that you can provide better service, better product, and at a better price, so that you're going to be a success in the face of all this this adversity.
Mm-hmm.
And then the masochism part is just a buzzword I chose, but it's you have to take a hit.
Yes, you do.
You have to be able to
Yes.
get beat up and then
Mhm.
get up and
Right.
push on. And if you make mistakes, you're going to pay for those mistakes, but you're going to go out and try to do everything you can to obfuscate that in the future.
Mhm.
And then I did brush on personal relationships earlier. You know, it
Yes.
takes a toll.
It really does.
But I can tell you this, it's a great fraternity. You can go anywhere in the world and walk into a restaurant and say, yeah, I own a restaurant in Las Vegas. Oh, really? What is it? Blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, the owner's walking you through his kitchen, talking about what problems they have. They're sending you drinks or appetizers or whatever. And it's a society. It's a fraternity.
Sure.
And there's value in that.
Oh,
There's wealth in
absolutely.
that.
Yes.
And you know, and that's comes back into the self-actualization.
Mhm.
But you need to be able to persevere.
Yes, you do. Be in the midst of adversity,
Oh,
especially when it's your own stuff, so to
Mhm.
speak.
yeah, it's your stuff.
And-
It's your money. It's
and-
your family's money, maybe.
Yes, that's a good point. And to your point here, it's a way of life. It's not just a job.
No, no. And if you don't embrace the way of life, you'll never be a successful restaurateur.
Oh,
You just won't.
absolutely.
If it's not I'll do it part-time or I own a restaurant on the side.
Mhm.
If you want to do that, I always say there are restaurant owners and there are restaurateurs.
Oh,
Okay?
could you distinguish that?
Yeah,
Oh,
a restaurateur is somebody who does live the life,
Mhm.
who is immersed in all the intricacies and the day-to-day life, and who's getting beat up and who's finding other rewards. Great reward. It's Friday night. You're slammed, and it runs like a Swiss watch. And when you're done, everybody's high-fiving each other. We did it. We pulled it off. You know?
Excellent.
So that's a restaurateur would appreciate that.
Mhm.
A restaurant owner is just somebody who's invested in the restaurant,
Okay.
and they, you know, they're in it for the money. They don't get
Mm.
the rush. Maybe they go, okay, why don't you meet me at my restaurant? We'll have some drinks. I mean, that's fine, but you're not a restaurateur that way. You're just a restaurant owner. And a restaurant owner is much more accomplished within the craft.
It's a craft within the industry, and with that type of development, looking at it from an infrastructure perspective,
Mm-hmm.
what is the realistic dynamic of getting these permits together, getting the built out together, the management of the front of the house and the back of the house? How does that in real life compare to what we see on reality TV? With Chef Ramsay Gordon and chefs, Robert so and so, on Food Network. Is that really real, or is that like scripted?
Well, much of it is scripted, but you have to
Uh-huh.
remember that people like them have people like me that work for them.
Good point.
And
Yes.
that's another
Yes.
difference when we were talking about failure rates earlier.
Mhm.
You're not going to see some company like Cheesecake Factory having a 90% failure rate.
Right.
What you're going to have are mom and pops, first timers,
Mhm.
undercapitalized people that they're the ones that fail.
Yes.
And there's so many more of them
Mhm.
than the ones that have, like I said, again, people like me working for them that are on staff all the time that can cover their back on this stuff.
I understand.
And developing a management and developing staff to face all the evils. It helps you to succeed. And in the beginning, it's so much first person. You're doing it yourself.
Right.
It's all on you.
Yes.
So those chefs, it's not all on them anymore.
Got it.
They have designers and architects that tell them where to put a service station, how deep the bar should be, how many cubic feet of refrigeration you need. You have to do that if you're a beginner.
Yes, and then some.
And then some. And then they have consultants that help them design the menus, and they have many chefs that work for them that help them put together the dishes that you'll see on the menu. And everything from flavor profiles to presentation and all, it's a collaborative effect. Even if you are doing it yourself,
Right.
you're working with whomever your chef or your head cook, whatever it is. You're working together, and you're constantly testing food, and it's a matter of weights and measures too.
Yes.
We have so many ounces of starch on a plate, so many ounces of protein on a plate,
That's
at
correct.
so many cents per ounce, and then you add it up, and then that tells you what you should be charging for that plate, or you're going to lose money.
Absolutely, and that's a really good point to make, because then we come into the whole dynamic of pricing and cost of goods sold, or the price, the cost associated to make that fantastic plate of lasagna. And if you are charging $7 for that plate of lasagna when it actually costs you $10 to make it, Houston, we have a problem.
Well, actually, it's more like it costs you $3, and you better be charging 10, or you're not going to make any money.
Very good. Absolutely.
Because after you to get a little wonky on the business side, after you deduct your cost of goods sold from the sales price, that margin, or your gross margin, what comes out of that? Your rent, your utilities, your payroll, and on, your insurances and everything. And so that margin you have to maintain. And just to use that example, if it's costing you 31%, you're losing money.
Wow.
Okay, so you have to be dead on, or better.
Okay.
Dead on or better. And that's why you need these skill sets. You need to know, say for instance, like a case of lettuce costs $26 in the summer and weighs 55 pounds, but the same case of lettuce in the winter costs you $35 and only weighs 30 pounds.
Excellent. Yes.
So it's all in the details. It's a game of details, and the most successful restaurants are the ones that can control their costs.
Okay.
All right, because you are dealing with small margins at the end of the day. This is not a business where you make 20, 30% on your money. It's a business where you're operating traditionally anywhere from 8 to 12%. And the risk that causes, the risk to your capital that you're investing, human capital and dollar capital, it's you better know your stuff.
Exactly.
And you constantly have to be aware of it. You constantly have to be checking, and you need to know things. For instance, all you really own is the rights to sell food and beverage at an address. Nobody tells you what to put there.
Good point.
Nobody tells you how to put it there.
Good point.
The state just says if you're selling alcohol, you can't sell it to people under 21, and you can't sell it, between these early hours. What you have to do is you have to become an adept. I talk about a concept of vertical integration.
Okay, yes, I find that very interesting. Could you share more about that?
Sure, I'll give you an example. Let's take Exxon. Okay. Exxon is a vertically integrated company. They drill their own wells.
Okay. Got it.
They transport the crude over their own pipelines or with their own trucks to their own refineries.
Wow, the operative word here is own.
Oh, correct.
Wow.
And then from their refineries, they transport on their ships, on their pipelines or whatever, to all of their outlets, their branded gas stations.
Wow.
That's vertical integration. They're not going outside. They might hire services to help them do that, but they're doing it front to bottom. the restaurant industry, short of growing your own food and raising your own cattle, is the same thing.
Interesting.
You're buying raw materials,
Right.
so you have to know how to buy raw materials.
Got it.
My case with the lettuce.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you have to know how to manufacture or prepare a meal, and you do it on demand.
On demand is not what you would like to, have on the menu. Maybe customers prefer a romaine Caesar salad versus a butter lettuce salad.
Exactly.
So
and they're buying it. Your customer is buying it through your catalog. It's your menu.
Oh, I like that. And
Okay.
that's really what it is.
It's a catalog sale.
Absolutely.
And you don't know till they pick the item out of the catalog as to what the kitchen has to make for them.
Absolutely.
So you have to be prepared at all times to manufacture individually every item that's on that catalog.
Wow.
And it better come out hot. It better look good. It better taste good. It better be serviced well.
Absolutely.
And your merchandising, you need to know merchandising. I always say lights, temperature, and music, but what your store looks like, your storefront, your signage, your uniforms, the lighting, the floor coverings, the wall coverings, the furniture, the heft of the silverware. This is all part of your merchandising. You're trying to connote quality.
What is your advice moving beyond the traditional restaurant model, so to speak? Well, not model, but business option. And what if you were just like a stop and go, not necessarily fast food, but let's just say that there's someone that sells fantastic vegan or vegetarian tacos.
Mm-hmm.
And
my daughter.
There you go. And the spot or the location is basically no bigger than this room. And people are basically lining up, ordering their food, getting it boxed up to go, and then it's the next person in line. How does a traditional restaurant management dynamics translate into that type of smaller scale operation, or is it different?
Okay. Well, there are parts of it that are different, obviously, because you don't have large staffs and you're not providing sit-down dining. You don't have servers that are taking orders. You're just counter people who are taking orders. But all restaurant people better know about real estate.
Oh, absolutely. Location.
That's it.
Yes.
And what I say is you either have a concept and you seek a compatible location.
Okay.
Or you have a location and you build a concept to suit the location.
Oh, could you repeat what you just said? Because that's significant in reference to location.
Right. Some people say I want to do a vegan taco place. Okay. You don't necessarily want to be in an industrial area.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
If you're going to be selling Italian food, you don't want to be next door to 50 other Italian restaurants. What you should do is when you're seeking a location, there are basically two types of locations. There's a destination location, and then there's a convenience location.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, the convenience location, I often talk to this about like people that want to open a coffee shop or a donut store. It better be on the go-to-work side of the street.
Ah, okay then.
Because you're going to
Very
stop
clever.
and get coffee, you're going to get your donut or your bagel or whatever. If you look at all the majors, I don't care if it's Starbucks or Einstein's Bagels or Panera, they're always on the go-to-work side of the street.
This is so true. Now that I'm thinking about it, with, me and where I go, for, coffee or something quick, they are.
Yeah. And you're going to need to know how to negotiate a lease. Landlords are less inclined to give startups long leases.
Ah, all right.
And they're going to require that you guarantee the lease, whether you're open for business or not.
What does that mean, guarantee the lease?
It means that rent needs to be paid and they want to see what sort of collateral you can put up, what your net worth is, what's maybe what your income is from your other job, so that you can show that whether you're open or not, they're going to get their rent.
So with leases, at least in this situation, you can negotiate some things with the landlord. You don't have to just take it for what it's worth.
Oh, it's all a negotiation.
Okay.
You can negotiate. My rent isn't going to start until after I get my permits.
Okay.
My rent isn't going to start until I've passed all my building inspections and I get a certificate of occupancy from your local municipality.
Okay.
Because you don't want to pay rent without any income coming in, and landlords know that it's ordinary. But you also want to know that if you want to exit, you decide, hey, this isn't for me, or this is tougher than I thought, or I'm not making enough money. You better make sure that there's enough years left on the lease,
yes,
so that you have something to sell, because a buyer needs to have a reasonable expectation of amortizing that cost out over the length of your lease. So you need to have your landlord's your partner.
Yes.
Plain and simple, he's your partner.
Yes.
And they're going to allow you assignment of the lease if you want to leave. They're going to give you options to extend if you're successful and you want to stay. They're going to allow you time to do your build out and get open. They're taking quite an investment in you as well.
Absolutely.
And they are your partner. But this is one of the ironies of the business, is that I professed often that more banks and landlords put restaurants out of business than bad operators.
Wow. That's interesting.
And here's why.
Wow.
The landlords don't want to give you the best terms and conditions if you're new.
Okay, because you're new.
You're new.
Not
Who
proven.
knows?
Yeah.
You're not proven. But if you're Outback or somebody like that, they're going to give you better terms and conditions. So because of that uncertainty, you're going to pay more in rent, and the terms of the lease are going to be more strict.
Yes.
And the banks or whoever your lender is going to say, oh my God, 90% failure rate. Why would I even give you any money? So what they're going to say is, okay, I'll take a flyer on you. But, ordinarily I'd be getting 10% interest, but I'm going to have to charge you 13 or 14%.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Wow.
So that there's an adjustment for the risk. So now the landlords put you in a high risk situation. Your lenders put you in a high risk situation, and you're worrying about your food costs being 30 or 31%. You making money or not making money.
Wow.
So
it's like a science.
Yeah, it is a science, and that's why I say you really need to know your craft.
Absolutely.
You need to know where every penny goes, and it's.
Speaking of where every penny goes, would you suggest that restaurant operators, regardless of the model, to lease or buy equipment? What would be in their best interest, or it depends?
Well, I think it does depend. We usually lease certain types of equipment.
Okay.
For instance, dishwashers are ordinarily leased.
Oh, okay.
Refrigerators are bought. Ice machines are leased. So it's a hodgepodge. It's a mix. If you can afford to buy.
Okay.
Because whenever you're in a lease situation, you're going to be paying a little bit more. But you're trying to use whatever capital you have, especially in the beginning. You need reserves. Nobody ever estimates their cost correctly.
And that is the truth of it.
Yes. Yeah, they don't. You forget about things like, you have employees? Well, what do you think your first 90 days wages are? Estimate your first 90 days wages. And then the government says, we're not going to chase you for those withholding taxes. We want you to put it up as a deposit.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's like a boomerang you didn't see coming.
Didn't see coming.
Wow.
The same thing with the city, municipality, the sales tax. What do you estimate your volume to be? you have to put up 90 days worth of sales tax as a deposit. And then it all balances out.
Yes.
In Las Vegas here where we are, but this is common everywhere. You have a sanitation district in the city of Las Vegas, in the county of Clark, and wherever your respective municipality is. There are things called sewer hookup fees. And a sewer hookup fee is based on a water source and a drain.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So let's just take a ladies' room, restaurant. You go in, there's two sinks. In our county here, it's $3,400 per water source and drain. So there's two sinks, that's $7,000.
Wow.
There's two toilets, that's another $7,000.
Wow.
So there you have
I had no idea.
$15,000 just in sewer hookup fees for your bathroom alone.
That's not even the kitchen.
No, and
or
then
the men's
kitchen,
bathroom,
the bar, the men's room, hand sinks, pot sinks, dishwashers. All of these carry these fees, and you have to put it up front.
Wow.
So people think that they have enough money, and nobody opens the doors and it's slammed the first day. I mean, it happens, but in real terms, you're going to ramp up in sales.
Yes.
So you need to be able to cover that differential during your ramp up period until all of a sudden you're either breaking even or maybe, God forbid, make a profit. But so you need to be able to cover that. And the same thing happens with all your insurances. Workers' comp is very high for restaurants. It's a dangerous place to work.
Sure is. You may never know. I mean,
fire, knives, hot water, hot oil, slip and fall, the public. And everything that you buy is of a heavier construction. For instance, like a toilet for your home might cost $500, all said and done, right?
Right.
In a restaurant, it's going to cost at least double that. You don't only flush the toilet at home maybe, a dozen times a day. In a restaurant, the toilets are flushing constantly, hundreds of times a day.
That's right. You need one of these like high-end that can handle that type of usage.
Everything's got to be bigger, beefier. The chairs that your customers sit on. Your dining room table, you might sit at it, 3 meals a day?
Yeah,
maybe.
Yes.
Maybe you sit on the couch and watch TV, but in a restaurant, those chairs are being handled all the time. In and out from the table, people sitting on them, light people, heavy people, everything just takes a beating. And so it takes about 5 years, and then whatever you got to replace it.
Wow, that's fascinating. I'm so happy that you're here with your plethora of expertise and advice. It's fascinating to learn all of this. Now, one of your mottos, and you have plenty of mottos that are have relevance to them, is train hard, manage easy.
I believe in that. I believe in that wholeheartedly. It's my opinion that you don't know what's wrong or weak about an employee that you have, and until, we'll put it this way, you don't start managing that employee correctly until you know what's wrong or weak about them.
Okay.
If Billy doesn't know how to add, sit down and teach Billy addition.
Okay.
If Sally doesn't know how to describe an item on the menu, train them.
Right.
And so I profess train hard, manage easy. That's my motto. And the more you train, and I mean it's a constant thing, the more you train, the better result, not just for you, but for your customer. For instance, lunch. Technically, lunch is the most difficult meal of the day to serve.
Really?
Yeah, because you have to get back to work.
Oh, that's right.
You're going to
That's
drive or
right.
walk to wherever you're getting your food.
Mhm.
You have to order it. You have to wait
Mhm.
for it. You have to be able to eat it, and then you have to be able to get back, or your
That's
employer is
right.
going to be angry. So
Absolutely.
technically, it's the most difficult. So I train servers, and I say when people come in for lunchtime, after you greet them, ask them right front, are you here for a leisurely lunch, or do you have to get back to work? How much time do you have? And if they say, no, we have to get back, we only have a half an hour, then I recommend these items because the
Ah,
kitchen can get these items out
ah,
fast. They're really good. My favorite one is
excellent.
X. And
Excellent.
so that's all from training.
Hmm.
And,
Definitely.
and I've been told many, many times with people that have worked for me in the past, they'll leave, people putting themselves through college, or they have other opportunities, or they have babies, whatever it is, but they'll come back and say, you know what, I, I'm making more money now, but I enjoyed working for you better because you invested the time in me. And people talk about employee retention
Right.
and not being able to get good help. Well, good help, you make them good help.
Excellent.
It's your
Excellent.
responsibility.
Yes.
In my restaurants, if there was any turnover or termination whatsoever,
Mhm.
whether the people were leaving voluntarily or a manager wanted to let them go, every manager of that store had to come into my office, sit down in front of me, and tell me where we failed.
Wow.
Because,
Wow.
yeah, you either failed to hire correctly,
Hmm.
you failed to train correctly, you failed to supervise correctly.
Wow. Now, to that point, that tells me that in addition to your experience in the restaurant industry,
Mm-hmm.
you have reached that level of self-actualization where your investment you're invested in the evolution, in the growth and development of other people's self-actualization as well. For you
Oh,
to actually have your manager sit down and take onus and responsibility and
oh yeah.
accountability of that fire.
Well,
That's fantastic.
it goes well beyond that. It's, I'll give you, for instance, when I stopped running multiple restaurants in which I was a managing partner, we literally had hundreds and hundreds of employees.
Uh-huh.
Well, let's go back to Billy again. Billy wants to buy a new car. Sally wants to buy a house.
Mhm.
Somebody's wants to put the kid through college.
Mhm.
They are relying on you going to work every day and doing the best job that you can so that restaurant is successful so they can
Mhm.
do the things that they want to do in life.
Yes.
And it's your responsibility to, for all of those people, for all their wishes, for all their efforts, you have to get up and do a good job. You can't let up. It's part of that masochism there.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
can't let up. If you do, you're failing not just yourself and your business, you're failing these people that depend on you for their livelihood.
That's the difference between um, being in business, and this is generally speaking, being in business so that everyone is mutually benefits versus just being in business for yourself.
Right.
Hmm.
And the people that are just in it for themselves,
Hmm.
they have high turnover. They can't recruit good staff.
Uh-huh.
They can't keep good
Hmm.
management
Hmm.
because people know.
Yes, they do.
They know, if your
Absolutely.
boss doesn't care about you or you're a cog in a wheel with no personal
Mhm.
identity, people aren't going to stay with you. They're not going to be loyal.
I agree, and
And there's where turnover comes in,
that's the
and
nature of
and
it.
the inability to recruit well.
Because word travels fast in the restaurant industry of, I'm just assuming, managers, wait staff, different positions. Well, I got this job interview at so and so's restaurant, and you're
Hmm.
telling someone that's in the industry, and they're like, well, you know what, my friend worked there a couple years ago, and if it's under the same ownership or management, it was a complete disaster. So people do talk too,
Oh
and
yeah,
word travels fast.
and good people seek you out.
Ah, interesting.
because people talk.
Hmm.
People know, they'll say, you know what, that was a great place to work, or I hear that's a really good place to work. Developing that type of reputation,
Hmm.
that ability to attract talent,
Hmm.
is very much incumbent on the owner.
Yes, it is. It always comes back to you and whatever it is that you want to achieve within that industry, whether it's for your own personal gain, of course you want to be successful, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time for longevity purposes, whether it's short-term or long-term goals, when you really invest in your staff and in your own personal development and
It's your greatest asset, Kathleen.
absolutely,
Your greatest asset.
yes,
Not your bricks and mortar, not your equipment, not your ice machine. It's your staff.
absolutely,
Because they're the ones that are representing you. You're not always there.
yes. No, you're not.
You
I
know?
mean, unless you have a clone,
Yeah, you're
and
not
who
always
has
there.
that?
So it's those people that are representing you. So they have to develop a sense of pride.
Yes.
They have to know that they're working under the best conditions
Hmm.
available, that they're being treated as well or better here than
Hmm.
anywhere else, and that pays off many times over.
Now, I'd like to ask you something, and I've experienced this, over the course of my life. Like, I'm just being, transparent here. If you know someone that works at a restaurant or a fast food chain or what have you, let's just say you're the starving college student.
Mm-hmm.
One of your friends is working at, this particular restaurant, and they give you, a little something extra on the side, like an extra serving of fries or an extra burger here and there, kind of under the table, with your order. How do you manage that? How do you manage and that's basically like loss, you know, at a cost
It
to
is
the
a loss.
restaurant.
It is a loss, and,
How do
and
you?
it's a real loss.
Mhm.
It, there are systems and controls, inventory controls,
Okay.
that a good technical manager
Okay.
will be able to take care of.
Mhm.
There are nowadays there's always an eye in the sky somewhere,
Always. Sure.
but probably the most common example
Mhm.
is the bartender.
Oh.
Everybody says, "Oh, your bartender's going to steal from you." How do you keep them from stealing? This is, first off, that assumes that they're thieves, and they're not.
Right.
But I know that there are customers that come in that are regulars, and I'm not there. If I was there,
Right.
I would say, why don't you have a drink on us for being a good customer or whatever,
Okay.
or welcome back. And so I allow my bartenders to have their own comp account.
Oh, I see. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And I know that their friends are going to come in, other industry people, bartenders from other stuff. And I know that they're going to want to give them a drink. Or if they don't give them a drink, they're going to over pour for them.
Got
Okay.
it.
Which is the same thing as giving away.
Right.
So what I say is there's two things that has to happen. You either go to the cash register and ring it in,
Okay.
or you go to your comp account and
All
put it
right.
on your comp account.
Okay.
If you do neither, you're stealing.
Absolutely. Yes. Because you're giving them the option.
I'm giving them the option to
Yes,
do
to
what
be
they have to
honest.
do,
Yeah.
to be good business people, to represent you well, to make sure that, you love having industry people coming in. You have to take care of them.
Yeah, you do.
That's why there's so many industry nights around town.
Mm-hmm.
But it's stealing if you're not writing it down.
Absolutely.
And then I'll monitor your account.
Oh, sure.
And I'll know
Sure.
whether you're abusing it or not. And if you are, I'll talk to you about it.
And there's a type of software to help you do that.
Right.
Right?
Right. And even if it's just written on a pad.
Okay.
But if I say, Kathleen, well drink.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
You know,
okay.
That's it.
That's all it takes.
That's
Doesn't
all
have
it
to be
takes.
anything
Exactly.
fancy.
It doesn't
Okay.
have to be anything fancy. But that way, you're taking that. They don't need to steal.
Right.
They don't need to give away.
Right. You're giving them
I'm
that
giving
option.
that option.
Yes.
And servers giving extra French fries and things like that. But, that's really nominal in this business because
Okay.
the server has to order. A server can't go behind the cook line
Ah,
and cook French fries and then bring it out.
that's right. That's
Okay.
right. That's right.
So there has to be collusion, and that makes it more difficult.
Okay.
And then in the kitchen, to prevent employees from taking your product out, you always hear steaks going out the back door.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yes.
You have inventory control. You count at the beginning of every shift how many steaks you have.
Yes. Literally, you have to.
Literally. And then
Yes.
at the end of the shift, you run a report that says we sold 17 steaks tonight and we had 25 when we started the shift. So there better be 8 steaks left.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so these controls, which you will become an adept at if you're in this business, or you won't be in this business.
Right.
So that's how we handle that.
This is excellent. So with that, I'd like for you to share any comments that you may have. If our audience has any questions, I'm just looking at our question box here. For those of you that are tuning in, if you'd like to chime in at any time and send us a question or a comment, please do so now because we're about to wrap up, because time flies when you're having an amazing conversation.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to have to bring you back. So with that, Bill, some closing remarks, maybe, some sage advice for the person that is embarking into the restaurant industry. What would be some pearls of wisdom that you'd like to share with them?
Well, I think education is probably the biggest thing. You need to find people in the business that you admire and ask them about it.
Yes. Now, it's interesting that you would say that, because what I come across, and it's just not in the restaurant industry, maybe it's a little different, but generally speaking, I literally have clients come in and tell me that, and I advise them, you may want to seek out someone in that industry to kind of like mentor you or just share tidbits here and there. And they will say no one wants to share anything because they think I'm competition. They don't want to be open. So how do you?
Not if you're a restaurateur.
Because it's a fraternity, as
That's
you
right.
said.
And you want everyone to succeed.
Excellent. And I do too, because I'm a foodie. Yeah. Please succeed.
Well, even if you were right next door to me, I want you to be successful, because we're creating a greater dining destination. Maybe they eat in your store tonight and they eat in my store the next night or next week. So there's that. I also advise that you get, let's call it a board of directors, but not a formal board of directors. You get a board of advisors.
Okay.
If you know a good accountant that you can bounce ideas off of, an attorney, a banker, an investor, just a small business person.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
And these people will make recommendations for you. They'll say, well, I can't answer your question, but why don't you talk to so and so? And you're just outsourcing reference.
Right.
And so much of this is education. I'm a mentor here with SCORE.
Yes, and you do a phenomenal job with giving advice in the development of entrepreneurs. Would you like to talk more about that eventually?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. But to keep it within what we were talking about, I teach a class, a workshop every quarter.
Excellent.
Okay, and that's open to the public. SCORE charges a nominal. Let me say what SCORE is. SCORE is a national association. We have over 11,000 mentors like myself. We're all certified. We go through a process. We have ethics codes, that type of thing, and we're totally free. If you need to talk to somebody about real estate, we have real estate pros. You want to talk to an attorney, we have attorneys. You want to talk about intellectual property. You want to talk about real estate, regardless of what the subject is. Retailing, merchandising, sales. We have people. Here in Las Vegas, we have 65 mentors.
Excellent.
And if you call our offices, you'll be able to speak to the people at the front desk, and they're adept at matching you up with a good first interview.
That's fantastic.
That person might be in the field that you want, and if they're not, they're good first interviewers, and then they'll refer you to someone who's really going to help you. And there's no time limit on what we do.
Great.
And it can be done in person, it can be done over the phone, it can be done Skype, however you want to communicate, email, we communicate. And this service is available at no cost to everyone. We don't discriminate in any way. And everybody here is just paying it back.
Yeah, I agree. SCORE is a phenomenal organization. We refer clients to SCORE. We're down the hall from SCORE in the Small Business Administration's office near downtown Las Vegas. And it's such a pleasure to collaborate with SCORE for these series of webinars. And I'm so glad that you took the time out of your busy schedule to share your expertise and plethora of knowledge and wisdom to our viewers. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, it's been my pleasure.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you. So overall, this is a fantastic discussion about the restaurant entrepreneur. If you have any questions, Bill, could someone contact you?
Yes, you can just call the SCORE offices here. Of course, I don't remember the phone number.
That's okay.
We can be reached at 702-388-6104. And we'll be happy to take care of you, help you out in any way that we can. And if we can help you, we'll find someone. If you go to score.org, which is our national website, there's a drop-down menu that says Find a Mentor. And if we can't help you here, maybe somebody in Wisconsin can help you, or somebody in Florida can help you. We are national, and we've been around for over 60 years.
Excellent. You're going to be in excellent hands with SCORE. They have a fantastic array of mentors in different fields. After the webinar, and again, thank you so much for tuning in, you're going to receive a survey from GoToWebinar on our behalf, the Nevada Women's Business Center. I'd really appreciate your feedback. And if you have any questions, please give us a call at the Nevada Women's Business Center at area code 702-734-3555. Also, check us out online at www.nevadawbc.com. Thanks again for tuning in, Bill. Pleasure. It was a great way to start the weekend for us. Love education. Excellent for small business development.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And please tune in next time. Bye.
Bye.